Good evening, everybody. They say history repeats itself, and it seems to be true. And countless examples could be found. And I know, because this is what it says in the holy books, that the trends in history really were precedented in the book of Genesis, Sefer Bereshis, that we're currently reading. Someone might wonder, what in the world is all those stories? Why are they all necessary to know? Because even like Rashi at the beginning of last week's Parsha, Parshas Bereshis says the Torah could have started from Achar Salchem, which is the first mitzvah we received. So Rashi says, well, no, God had to say how He created the world, to show that He owns it, and He could therefore award us the land of Israel, if He so desires. He could take it away from the 7 nations, give it to us. Okay, so if that's all it's about, right, then just say God created the world, and then jump to Hacharish Selachem, or at least jump to the story of Avraham Avinu and how God promised the land of Israel. We have the whole parsha of Bereshis and Noach, of all these societies that lived and were gone by the time Avraham Avinu's big day came, and he was the big man on campus preaching. By that time, the generation of flood was gone, the generation of the dispersal was gone. So why does the Torah tell us about them and at such great length? The answer is, as it says in the holy books, is that there are certain elemental forces in reality, just like, in chemistry there's a periodic table. Physics discusses all the different types of energies that there are, that there's definite building blocks. There's also certain spiritual and metaphysical building blocks in reality. Included in that are, trends, because even the elements of reality could go into different permutations and combine in different possibilities in different scenarios. Nothing is ad lib, nothing's by chance. There's definite distinct patterns of how the forces could line up, not just the physical forces, right? That there's only certain scenarios in which certain combinations could arise. The weather can't just be anything. There's certain trends of how the forces come together and interact, the different possibilities, different permutations. The same thing is also true regarding global trends, ideas, possibilities for war, possibilities for peace, possibilities of closeness to Hashem, possibilities of rebellion from Hashem. We're living in a world that has set tracks to it. We can choose between the tracks, but are definitely set tracks. And you understand that has to be that way. Because even though God wants to give us free will, He doesn't want to totally abandon the world and put it at the mercy of our free will. Because at the end of the day, His agenda of bringing Mashiach and bringing Am Yisrael to Olam Haba and making the world perfect, that agenda has to be fulfilled. So you have free will, but you could choose between the different tracks, and all the different tracks fit the divine will. But we indeed choose between the tracks, but there are definite tracks to choose between. There's certain elemental forces, certain elemental tracks, and that's the secret behind the 20 generations that lived and were gone before Avraham Avinu came on the scene. Avraham Avinu being like the main character in God's story. And he's even alluded to in Parshas Bereshis, Bihi Baram, Rashi brings, Bihi Baram, El Ba'Avram. The whole world was created in the merit of Avram, so he's even alluded to in the Genesis. But you have all these 20 generations that lived and died before him. These 20 generations set trends in history. And we're going to discuss how history is repeating itself. And that's why you find it's true what people say, history repeats itself. It's 100% true, because there are certain trends and certain possible scripts that there are in reality And, we could choose between which ones, but there ultimately will be certain trends, certain tracks that there are set that, those are our options. Those tracks in destiny are our options that we can choose between. So it's definitely our choice. But if we don't have any option we want to choose between options. And the different tracks that there are in reality are the different options. And therefore, inevitably, someone's going to choose that track that's already been there since the Genesis. And those tracks that are being formed in course of these 20 generations. They form all the different tracks and all the different elemental forces and trends. All right, that's the secret of it, and this is actually something we could go into much deeper, maybe at another time. But what I want to just focus on is how history is repeating itself. As a kid, I always wondered, why is the story of the flood relevant to us? Why is the story of Migdal Bavel that we have in this week's parsha, the Tower of Babel, what's that relevant to us? Something that happened once. A bunch of guys who we would not consider Jewish. So what does that do with us and our heritage? No, these are certain forces in reality that are still active, sadly, because we haven't, rid reality of these negative energies. And therefore there are nations and civilizations that could find themselves along these tracks that have been carved out. And like I said, these bad tracks are not going to be eliminated until Am Yisrael, is in Eretz Yisrael with a Beis HaMikdash again, as I'm about to explain. But take a look. The generation of the flood, they were into theft, right? I'm sure they had a way of rationalizing it. They probably called it redistribution of wealth for the sake of social justice, right? Undoubtedly, that's how they whitewashed it. And of course, there was ridiculous promiscuity, right, left, and center. The kids are in what we'd call a very liberal society. So much so that it says the nations of the world learned the lesson after the flood and took on safeguards to be less promiscuous until Bilam, Harasha, caused the Goyim to become promiscuous again, the Benos Midyan, right, to bring down the Jewish people. Right, Bilam, was Poretz Geder, and he walked back, how the nations of the world actually wanted to be more morally upright. But it never went back to as bad as it was by the flood, with the, same gender unions, God forbid, and cross breeding, with man and animal and all types of animal weird stuff. Well, unfortunately, if there's any generation that made it closest, back to the flood, it's our generation with all the promiscuity and all the theft, the legalized theft in the name of social justice, all the lack of real justice, and all that promiscuity. And now what's happening? What's happening? Right, with all that transgenderism and all that, it hasn't been this bad since the flood. And they're talking about abolishing gender altogether. Sick stuff. This sickness there wasn't in, I'm wondering if there's certain sick elements in this day and age that there wasn't even back then in the flood. One thing's for sure, no one's closest to the generation flood than us. Okay, this has been going on. This has been at the forefront, particularly the last 3-4 years. Look what's happening. So God made a oath. He's not destroying the whole world with water, but that was just not the whole world. But what's happening? You guys tell me. Hurricanes. It's crazy. Like one hurricane after another, after another, after another. Right? And now Europe just got hit. Ken Yov Du Oivech Hashem. Right? And it's flooding. Right? Flooding. Because people have fallen back into the track of the Dora Mabul, and of course the response is, to whatever extent God will allow Himself, He barred Himself from destroying the whole world with water. Thank God, not complaining, right? But there's a lot of flooding, and you have to ask yourself, flooding, all this hurricanes, You have to try to connect the dots, and you realize, and because there's a lot going on today, sick stuff, that's like what went on in the generation of the flood. Just to teach you that, history is going to repeat until Mashiach comes and set things right permanently as far as vices and things that could go wrong. So long as those cracks are still in reality, those cracks can always reopen, and that's the secret behind history repeating itself. There's certain set cracks in reality that, those cracks could easily reopen until they're permanently sewed up. And we're going to talk about it in just a few minutes, right? But now what's the other thing, right, in this week's parasha? Migdal Bavel. Unity, but a fake unity, based around a fake idea. They made the tower, the symbol that will unite them. Because, hey, a society needs ideas to bind together, that they should be united under a particular cause, a particular common cause, right? They wanted a global common cause. Sound familiar? Something like what, Soviet Union style communism, right? And that's very much what the thing was. That tower represented the state, and everything's just for the state. And the Medrash says they really didn't care about people. If bricks got broken accidentally during construction, they were really upset because it set back the national project. But if a guy got killed on the scaffold, a work accident, they didn't care so much. People are replaceable, they're more born all the time. Bricks, man, that's hard, right? Worked so hard to make those bricks, right? Because everything was the state, right? So now just like there was the Soviet Union, and it dispersed, right? History repeated itself. Because, of course, not just the bad things repeat itself, but the good things also. How evil is ultimately defeated. That's script. So there's like the fake unity around a fake idea, right? So the Soviet Union fell apart. Now we're dealing with other types of unions. The European Union, the UN, and they're all about the same thing. They have a certain series of fake ideas, nothing to do with God, nothing to do with Torah. And that's what they hate the most, God and Torah, and, of course, what represents God and Torah. What represents God and Torah? The Jews and Eretz Yisrael. So at the UN, the one thing you could count on them is to condemn Israel, because the fake idea hates the real idea the most, right? And now we could at least take some solace that the European Union seems to be falling apart, right? That union, which is totally anti-moral and totally anti-Israel, totally pro-Muslim, but not pro anything else, not pro anything that's good, right? Right. That union is, thank God, falling apart. With Brexit, and I said, the other rightist, in the polls. That not to say I'm no fan of those neo-Nazis. Believe me, I hate them, but I hate the European Union more. It is a type of Migdal Bavel that is a merida, a rebellion against Malchus Shamayim, and that's why they hate the Yiddishkeit. They talk about it every few years in the European Union, banning Shechita and then banning Bris Milah. I see we have a viewer from the Balkans. Hello, Rabbi Finman. Right, so maybe you want to comment. I understand that, this, so I read it in the news. Over there, Europeans are terrible. And once every few years about banning throughout the whole European Union, Bris Milah, Shechita, Shem Yerachim. Right, but but I understand the bigger union called the UN. Right, and it's all, Nase Lanu Shame, like Chazal say, it was an Avodah Zorah. That tower was an Avodah, meaning, because what's supposed to be the center of our lives is HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Torah. Right, and that's the real idea, that everything should be united around. Right, that's the real idea. Right, the real idea that everything should be united around is Torah and Klal Yisrael. And that's going to happen when Am Yisrael is in Eretz Yisrael, which is also the center of the globe. He who controls Eretz Yisrael is really going to control the whole world, because that's like point center, and that's the most influential point. You know what the Migdal Bavel was, says the Beis Yaakov from Mishbitza? It was an evil twin of the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash is supposed to be, where Mokom L'Shakein Shmo Sham. It says multiple times in the Chumash. And in the Tanakh also. It's where God's name dwells. God's name dwells in the Beis HaMikdash, and that will be the real Shem Shamayim, that everything unites around Besod, Knesia, L'Shem, Shamayim, Sofos Kaime, ingathering. But it's done for the sake of the name of heaven. That's an ingathering. That's a unity that will last. What was Migdal Bavel? They said, Naset Lanu Shem. We want to be our own name. We want to be our own cause. Not God should be the cause. We should, the Midah called Shem, which is the Midah called Malchus in Kabbalah. The power of unity, we don't want to use it for God. We want to siphon the power of unity and bring it to ourselves and take it selfishly and make our own type of unity, but not God-based, not Torah-based, not morality-based. Right? It's like liberal society today. They're looking for causes, to hold them together, whether it's just to take down Donald Trump, the Never Trumpers, and that'll be the unity, or kneeling by the national anthem. They're grasping at straws to have a cause to unite around. Right? But the only cause that will really, really, really endure, right, is a timeless truth, a cause that's based on a timeless truth. What's a timeless truth? That will never go out of style, never become irrelevant, never be proven to be false. HaKadosh Baruch Hu and His Torah. And that's Shem Shamayim. And that's Knesil Shem Shamayim, Sofos Kaim. That's what the Beis HaMikdash was. A place where Shem Shamayim dwells. And Am Yisrael was united with each other around the Beis HaMikdash. Chazal tells us, just like Eretz Yisrael is the center of the globe, Yerushalayim is the center of Eretz Yisrael. And the Har HaBayis was the center of Yerushalayim, was point center that everything revolves around and unites around. That's why all Am Yisrael indeed united at the Beis HaMikdash by the Aliyah L'Regel. Everyone came together. The Migdal Bavel is an evil twin. Naseh Lanu Shem, and we'll make our own unity. They wanted to grab the attribute of unity, and disassociate it from God. There should be a different type of unity, a secular unity, a selfish unity. Naseh Lanu Shem, instead of Shem Shamayim. And that's still what's going on, and now thank God, we're seeing also, we could draw some strength, we should draw some encouragement, that we see these evil unions, right, which are the continuation of Migdal Bavel, where it's the European Union, whether it's the UN, whether it's the liberal establishment, whether it's the Hollywood establishment. Thanks God, these things are splintering, Baruch Hashem, right? Chasdei Hashem, right? But since history repeats itself, until the truth reaches point center of reality and point center of society, until truth occupies point center, so long as the point center is vacant, right, empty of the real truth, so every Meshugana will try to put his truth there. So it was Hitler with his Nazism, and he got the whole German people and all Aryan people on board for that. Of course, it didn't last, but it worked for the time, right? Because sadly, the real truth is not in point center of reality right now. Point center of reality has a vacuum, right? And so now, so even though the fake ones don't last, eventually God disperses them, right? But sadly, they could do their temporary damage. There's, Migdal Bavel, Part 2, Version 2, version 2.0, version 3.0, whatever they say in the, as they update these apps, where you call it the Roman Empire, whether you call it the EU, whether you call it the UN, it's all another form. We call it the Soviet Union. It's all another type of Migdal Bavel. God disperses it eventually, but there's nothing stopping for another one to arise. That'll have its temporary success. Ein Sof Liskayim, Ein Sof Liskayim. And we're going to keep on having these things happen over and over again until the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt. Because when the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt, it's called that Shem Shamayim is now occupying point center of reality. And then it's the vision of world peace that there will, when Mashiach comes, that when the Torah, God is shown to be the truth, and His Torah is shown to be the truth, that's when there'll be world peace. Because the whole humanity could unite around something real, right? Hashem and His Torah. So we definitely could see that the stories of Bereshis are forever relevant. and we should learn them again to understand that all these stories of pre-Avram Avinu are setting trends that history follows, and history will continue to follow until the final tikkun, when all those rifts are sewed up in a manner that they can never, come apart again. And what we have to do, we have to try to do our piece, even though we're witnessing the Hollywood industry splintering, Baruch Hashem, with the scandal that happened with a guy who has a name that I'm embarrassed to say. I hope he's not Jewish, right? So Baruch Hashem, the European Union is coming apart. Hopefully, we need that the UN should come apart, and we need that all the different liberal establishments should come apart. And there is strife there, and I think they will come apart. But we have to be worried about who's going to come next. And the only way is that we have to fight to fill the void in the world with truth. Fill it with the truth of Torah, right? And particularly Eretz Yisrael, which is point center of reality. The real point, we have to try to yearn that Eretz Yisrael should be full of Torah, and that ultimately the Beis Hamikdash will be rebuilt. And that's what's going to, Be'ezer Hashem, be the final sewing up of these rifts in reality that cause these historical trends that constantly repeat themselves. All right, so I hope everyone understands that all people, God-fearing, believing people, should bind together. It's a shame that unity is displayed by the Meshugayim, right? That there's the vocal minority, and the sane majority is the silent sane majority, and maybe that's what needs to change in order to make Mashiach come. That the sane majority should no longer be silent. It should be vocal, and it should be more unified and more cooperative effort, right, to pump the world with truth. And if we could pump the truth into the center of reality, and subvert, and overcome the power of the media, then Be'ez Hashem Mashiach will come, because Shem Shamayim Umalar, it's Deus Hashem, Shem Shamayim will be everywhere, and then Mashiach Tzidkenu will come, right? And then, really, V'Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz. And as the pasuk says, amim kulam safa brua, everyone will also speak, once again, the same language, like they did at the time of Migdal Baal. Safa brua, but as the pasuk goes on saying, likra kulam b'shem Hashem, but everyone's all calling out with the name of Hashem, not Naselanu Shem, but likra b'shem Hashem, Ula of those Shechem Echad, and to serve him in unity. Amen. Ken Yiratzon. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos.